how many of you right now are thinking, I feel lost? I feel stuck. I feel empty. Gosh, I just don't even know where to begin. I'm so overwhelmed. Well, we're going to talk about that this week. Welcome to episode 59 of the Positivity Experience. You are always one decision away from an entirely different life. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 59 of the Positivity Experience. I'm your girl Lori, and if you hear it in my voice like that, I have been sick this week, and I swore it was like Omicron, but it's not. It wasn't. I took 11 tests, so either I had 11 bogus tests, or it's a good chance I did not have COVID. But I tell you, it felt COVID-y. It started Sunday afternoon before the Super Bowl, and I was like, oh, I have a little bit of chills. I was like, okay. I had gone through stress the previous week, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just my body. So I got under the covers after the game and was like, okay. Monday I got up, I seemed okay. By like 3 or 4 o'clock, I started with these dumb chills again. And then Tuesday, I did, again, shivered a little bit. And I thought, oh gosh, okay, I'm getting a little bit of a virus. I took a test immediately. It came back negative. I was like, oh, well, I mean, it could be negative if it's too early. So then the next day, Tuesday, I felt very, very fatigued, like really run down. But Tuesday, by like 2:30, I was in full-on chills. I had a fever. I had chills, and I'm talking uncontrollable chills. Not body aches, not chest problems, just a virus. I mean, I think because of COVID and everything, we forget that there's actual just viruses. Like there's other viruses that go on other than COVID. And so Wednesday, again, not good. Yesterday, kind of the same thing. Today is Friday, and I'm recording this on Friday because tomorrow morning I'm going for my booster shot. And I know that booster might really make me lethargic and chills and like kind of what I've experienced all week. So I wanted to get this done before I went and got the booster tomorrow. So that's where I am. But I ended up taking like 11 tests because I was like, there's no way this is not COVID. But it was not. So there's other things going on. So don't panic if you start feeling really, really bad. But I will tell you, get rest. I never really sleep good. But I tell you, when I'm sick, I could barely keep my eyes open. And I become a 12-year-old child. I had pizza, I had ramen, I craved ice cream, and I am like, what is this? This is new. But yeah, it was funny. I said, oh my God, it's like being pregnant. And then I shivered at that and thought, oh no. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about this decision and making choices and just one decision away. And it's really important, and I've really executed this a lot. And I have to always remind myself that I'm always one decision away from something different. All right. And I know when you're in the middle of life and things are happening and you're like, oh my God, everything's overwhelming. Everything feels stressful. Everything is just too much. Then you'd also take on the role of feeling like, oh my gosh, everybody's reliant upon me. And that's not okay. We can't have everybody being uber codependent on you. I will say when I was sick, everybody just leaves me alone. Paul got me some stuff from the store. Sienna, so sweet. If you saw it on my Instagram, she brought me water and she put love you with a heart on top of it. Asked me a million times what I needed. Oh, I happily sat with Girl Scout cookies in the bed because why would I not? And so that's because people respect when people are sick in my house. I do, however, know that some of you listening, feel as though the people in your house feel as though you're not allowed to be sick, right? And this is where those boundaries come into play. This is where you have to be like, I am not capable of functioning right now. Somebody else is going to have to step up, and don't give in to that, right? So that was just a little side note because it is something I went through, and I was very, very blessed that my family doesn't expect me to jump through hoops or anything. Well, they don't anyway. So I think maybe that's a huge part of it. But when you make a decision, you are always in charge of your feelings. And if you operate from a place of feeling your feelings and then panicking about your feelings because you're worried about how somebody else is going to feel, how somebody else is going to respond, because you're all caught up in your feelings. I will repeat that feelings and thoughts are not facts. They've never been facts. They're not going to be facts. So this is where a decision comes into play. So let's say you are in a work atmosphere. And, let's be clear. Don't think that you're just going to fall into any cake sort of work and everything is going to be a kumbaya moment. That is an absolute unrealistic expectation. You're always going to have various personalities, things like that. So you also have to know that going into it. But let's say it's really problematic. You feel that, oh my gosh, when I get home, I am drained from the energy of everybody's negativity. And I mean, this is built up and this has been going on for a while. You are one decision away from changing that. Get a different job. And if you go, oh my God, but it's so hard. Okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but you're one decision away. Yeah, well, what if I have a conversation? Great. You're one decision away. Right? The thing is you don't get caught up on the one decision. You think that 64 decisions have to be made to manage every area of your life that you're not comfortable with. And that's not a true statement. So you must prioritize the things that are important to you. So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. If you're driving, we're at like 6 minutes and 8 seconds. Sorry. But if you're driving and you want to do this at another time, that's where you would start. So here's the deal. You need to sit down and say, okay, in my situations, all of them, relationships, work, spirituality, personal health, whatever it is that's important to you, I need you to just write down the areas that you feel that you're struggling with, that you feel lost in, that you feel insecure in, that you feel trapped in. I need you to write them down in each one of those areas. Pen to pad. Don't do this in your phone. Don't do this on your iPad. Pen to pad. Okay? Now, once you get that done, I need you to prioritize them. I understand everything feels catastrophic and everything feels like a stage 5 emergency, but it's not. So you have to decide which things are the most important to you. So what does this do? Number one, it makes it clearer for you. Number two, all that overwhelm that you're feeling right now can be not alleviated, but definitely dissipated when you start putting it in a priority and you realize that some of these things aren't an immediate fire that needs to be put out this week. That really will help your overwhelm. Seriously. Because we as people can only see our situation as being the biggest issue on the planet because we're in it. I mean, that totally makes sense, right? Because you're the one who's going through it. And I hear you and I validate it. But you can't sit there and go, well, I got too many decisions to make. I can't just make one. Well, you're going to have to start with one. And maybe this one decision is doing this, is doing this whole little practice. So but you have to be ready for it. Because so many people say they want to feel better, they want to change, they want to do these things, but you want to do it in your comfort. You don't want to lose people. You don't want to necessarily rock any boats. You just want to feel better. I'm going to tell you right now, that is unrealistic expectations. As you grow, you will lose people. You will lose friends. It will happen. Not might, it will. Stop holding on to that. So make the one decision right now to do this whole little practice. So now, once you've got all of that written down, and you've got it all prioritized, and be clear and honest with yourself. This is only valid and effective if you're 100% honest. So if you're thinking, oh my God, do I really want to put my marriage down there? Is that me feeling like I'm a failure? Stop it. If relationships don't work, that doesn't mean you're failing at it. Stop. Okay? So you have to be ready to be honest with yourself, because a lot of times you like to blame other people. Well, this person's making it this hard. And if this person would only do this, and this person, and that person, and this person. You can't control those narratives, but you can control the responses that you give to them. So now that you've made the decision to do the practice, write down each area that you really feel like you're struggling, lost, or just unsure of. And now you've prioritized them. We're going to take the top one. And I need you to read it. What is it? Why the why needs to be known. Why is this an urgent issue for you? Why? Why is this a priority 1 and that one a priority 20? Why? Be clear in your why, because very often we catastrophize everything and we feel as though everything is a stage 5 problem. But the reality is we need to notch that down, because everything is not a stage 5 problem. So once you get that done, you start to kind of layer the onion a little bit, right? You start peeling the layers back. Love that. So now you make a decision. So let's think of an example, a real-time example. Let's say it's a relationship, and let's say it's a marriage. Been in the marriage, let's think of a fictitious thing. Been in the marriage 5 years. You have a small child, baby, about a year old, and you guys are just really not getting along. And you're part to blame here too, right? Like you got to take the accountability because you're stressed because you have this baby, you're working from home, and the partner of yours goes out and is like really taking care of their mental health. You're really struggling. You voiced this. You feel like you're not being heard. You have a decision to make. This is one decision. You have a decision to make. Do you want to make it work knowing that it might be you pulling the bulk of the weight in the beginning? Because just so you know, don't expect people to reach the table at 50-50. That isn't going to happen. At no point, even if somebody's like, sure, I'll go to therapy with you, one person is always going to have a better interest in the therapy than another person. So if you aren't ready to carry on, let's say, this fictitious partner's weight, to see if it's going to work, then you already know what the answer is. So then you need to make that decision from the door. But the awareness that somebody typically is always going to pull the relationship when it's falling apart more than another person, you got to accept that. So if you decide that you want to work on it, that's one decision. How are you going to work on it? One decision. It's one decision at a time. Don't look at it and go, gosh, I don't know where to start with this guy. I don't know what I'm going to do. What do I want to do? Okay, stop. This is not something for you to make an emotional response from. That's the problem we all as humans get involved with and have a problem with, is responding to things. It's reacting to things out of a response that you feel was triggered. And that's where you got to check yourself. So you have to remember that in any situation, let's go to work. You're at work. You're really stressed. You're making good money though. You're getting $300,000 a year. You're getting paid. Money is good. But at this job, you realize this is really depleting you energetically. People are a little shady. You can't really trust anybody. It's becoming really problematic. You have a decision. What's more important to you? The money or your mental health? Because in that scenario, you can't have them both. At least not at that job. But you have to decide, is the $300,000 better or is your mental health better? Because I'm going to tell you right now, that $300,000 is beautiful and it's going to pay bills and it's going to get you nice, shiny things. And it might pay for great options like retreats and all these things for your mental health. But at the end of the day, you keep drilling a hole in the boat and wondering why it keeps going down. Because you're staying for the wrong reason. Now, if you feel as though it's really not as bad as you're making it out to be, that's even better. Because then you can stay in your $300,000 a year job. But you got to gauge it. Again, one decision. Now, what people will often say is, well, how do I know I'm making the right one? There is no right and wrong decisions. You make a decision. It's either going to have a positive outcome or an outcome that doesn't align with you. Stop saying right and wrong because that's very relative. And here's the deal, and I've said this multiple times. If you are afraid of failing, you will not grow. If you are afraid of mistakes, you will not grow. Fact. And that is a fact. I'm serious. Okay? So you have to be willing to take that leap out of this $300,000 a year job for your mental health. Now you decide you're going to get this job somewhere else. It's not making as much money, but it really makes you a better person for yourself. You feel better. You feel whole. You feel more connected to your family. Fine, you can't go to Cancun 3 times a year. But when you're sitting around the dinner table, you don't hate everybody in the house because you feel underappreciated. Okay, so you need to check it and remember, this is a fact. This is your decision. This isn't for somebody else to make the decision for you. One decision away is your decision. Okay? So stop trying to analyze it and play it out like you are now Steven Spielberg. You're now writing an entire script on if you make this choice, blah, 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 blah is going to happen. And if you make this choice, blah, 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 blah is going to happen. You stop it. You are not the king of the world. You are not God. That's not who you are. So the more that you're trying to analyze it and trying to prepare for a scenario, especially when it includes other humans, you don't get to say how they're supposed to react and how they're supposed to line and why they didn't do this and this didn't fall suit. Of course not, because they were a part of some script that you wrote that they didn't even know that they had. I mean, seriously. So remember, these are decisions that you make. Of course, they may affect other people. That's probably going to happen. But again, what's important to you? Let's say you say family is important to me. And I'm not talking partners. I'm talking like mom, dad, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, grandfathers, all that stuff. Okay. But yet you love them, or you do love them, but you love the idea of what you think family should look like. We should all get together. It should all be great. We should have the nice little train track around the tree. We should eat together and be so grateful for each other. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And that's great if you have it. But you don't hold on to that and keep trying to people please it and keep trying to put a round peg in a square hole to fit a vision that you have of what you want your life to be like with your family. And yet your family isn't going into that image. And now you're upset and depressed. Okay, you're allowed to have your feelings. But now what are you going to do? Are you going to keep, now that, don't be insane. Because remember, insanity, the literal definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So you need to make the decision. Are you going to skip out on Thanksgiving this year? Because you know what? You love the idea of this family, but just because you want it and you try to will it doesn't mean it's going to happen. So now you say, do you want to show up? Because you know Uncle Billy is going to tie one on and it's going to become problematic because Uncle Billy's going to get into a fight with his brother, which is your father, like he does every year over football. And now this becomes problematic and everybody is at everybody's throat. For what? Just to say you were hanging with your family? Are you kidding me? I would rather walk naked down the street on hypodermic needles than be in a situation like that. So you need to realize, just because you remove yourself from a situation and you decide not to entertain the circus monkeys, that the ringmaster of the circus isn't going to like the fact that you're not attending. They will try to manipulate and gaslight the situation to make you feel bad by not showing up and being selfish. That's not being selfish. Your mental health is never selfish. One decision away. Well, mom said she's not going to talk to me. Well, that's a problem. But that's not your problem. That's her problem. If she decides not to talk to you because you didn't show up for Thanksgiving, and yet she knows that you say you feel uncomfortable, but she says, well, that's just Uncle Billy. That's your uncle. He's family. Okay, she can choose to do that. That's her decision. One decision. Okay, I don't like it, but I'm sticking with it. That's her decision. That works for her. Don't judge it. Don't try to change her. And that's another decision. Make the decision, a big decision, that you can't control another human being. Period. So you have to remember that when you're making these decisions, this is you taking back ownership of your life. For years growing up, think about how it is as kids. We are told what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, what you say, what not to say, when to do this, when to not do this. Okay, you're given these limited belief systems. And you're expected to fall in line based on the limited belief that was given to you. But the reality is this: you don't have to. You don't have to. You're choosing to. That's a decision you're making. Yeah, but no, one decision away. And it has to be one decision. Sit with the decision, do what you need to do, go to another decision. Sit with it, do what you need to do. But the one decision before you even start this healing or continue on your healing journey is you need to make the decision right now to accept the fact that people do not have to support your journey. Your first decision should always be acceptance. Accepting that somebody doesn't have to know your why. Accepting you don't need to know their why. Accepting that this is your journey of growth. Accepting this may not be their journey of growth. Accepting this aligns with you. Accepting, oh, I don't really understand why that aligns with them, but that's what makes them happy. Stay in your lane. Okay? And that's the reality of it, because I think one of the biggest things that you worry about is how's this going to affect everybody. I understand. No, you can't just run off with Jason Momoa. That's for me to do. You can't just run off with Jason Momoa. Well, you could, and just ghost out on the family. That's a decision you make, and then whatever happens afterwards is going to happen. So I guess in theory you can do that. So yeah, there's some things, but that's what it is. You also can't make a decision based off of impulsivity to try to make you feel better either. Because then you're making a decision without being intentional. See, you don't make a decision for a different life out of frustration, out of desperation, out of fear, or out of impulsivity. You do so with intention. You live with intention. I promise I'll do a podcast on it. You live with your intention. See, I think as humans, I know, as humans, we just kind of do things kind of on autopilot 98% of the time. So again, before you start prioritizing that list that we talked about at the 6-minute mark back in the podcast, before you start prioritizing the list, make sure you know your why. Is it just because you just want to feel better? Okay, well, I mean, what does that mean? Is it because you want to go feel better just because somebody's not paying you attention at home? Is that good enough reason? If it is for you, then go with it. Zero judgment on my end. And that's the other thing. You can't judge yourself based on decisions that you make. Good, bad, or indifferent. Stop. Because very often you're judging yourself based on the fact that you already know what the outcome of whatever the situation is. Sure, you stay in a narcissistic gaslighting relationship for 5 years. You've been out of it for 1.5 years. You're still recovering from the trauma bond. You go, oh my God, why did I stay so long? How could I have not seen that? What is that going to do for you? Nothing productive. You can take any lessons you learn and be like, oh, okay, I know what that red flag is. I know what that would mean. I would need to give the next person a little bit more grace because it's not this person, but kind of keep that in mind. Plus, what that does, see, you're not looking at it from a positive because you're like, how could a narcissistic, toxic relationship for 5 years be positive? It could be greatly positive because even though it was done damage and you're learning from it, that's the key. You're learning from it. You're learning going forward what you don't want in a relationship, what you do want, and you're starting to learn what you will tolerate from someone and what you will not. So if you stop comparing and judging yourself on the knowledge that you have now of the situation that did not happen, that happened, right? With this knowledge now, you can't do that. You can't constantly sit in comparison and judgment of that. And so one decision away from a different life. One. In that 5-year toxic narcissistic relationship, you make a decision. I am not going to have a relationship like this again, but I'm not going to penalize every person I meet because of this relationship. Boom, boom, decision. So now the next step is, okay, so that's one decision. Check, one decision away. Great, you've already started a whole different life. Whole different side of your life. So now you go, okay, well now where do I even start with that? Well, you clearly are out of the relationship, so you've already started. So now it's always going to be self-love. That's an easy decision. Let me help you there. Self-priority, self-preservation, self-reflection, self-love, self-care, that's always first. Always. Always.com. Period. Okay? It is imperative that you get that. Self-love, self-care, never selfish. And listen, we were made to feel, well, I can only say we, meaning older people like me. We were made to feel that if you did anything for yourself that was egotistical and that was problematic because that's selfish, you don't do that. You give to others all the time. You don't take care of yourself. False narrative, limited belief. You can be kind. You can be caring. You can be empathetic, but you can also protect your peace. protect your peace. Why in the world would you think that that is selfish? What's not selfish is being able to protect your peace, establish your boundaries. And here's the deal. Making that decision to establish the boundaries, boom, boom, another decision that changes your entire life. So you're always one decision away from a different life. Now, that being said, you have to do various one decisions, but let's start with one decision. Because if not, you're going to get yourself caught up in that overwhelming, obsessive loop of like, oh my God, there's just too much. I just can't with this. I can't, it doesn't even make sense. I might as well just stay in what I'm in. You're right. That's exactly, if you believe you can't do this, you are 100% right. If you believe you can do this, you're 100% right. So you do get to decide this. This is one of those things for my lovely people who love control. Here you go. I'm lobbing you the tennis ball. It's your turn now. What are you going to do with it? You want all this control, you have it now. And what's that control? Put yourself as a priority. So you have two choices. Let the ball bounce out of bounds and, oh, well, you just stay where you are, or you serve it back to me. If you are waiting for someone else to make a decision for you, stop. Stop it. Because that's a level of gameplay without knowing that you're playing it. So when you're sitting in a space of making a decision, don't get so much into it about, am I making the right or wrong decision? Because what will happen, it's similar if you're a painter and you start looking at the canvas that you just painted, whatever the pictures you painted. Now, I'm not a painter. My husband is. I'm not really a painter, but I could look at a painting and be like, oh my God, that's beautiful. The painter can look at the painting and be like, I really messed those lines up. That doesn't even look right. And I could look at the same painting and think, what are they talking about? This is absolutely perfect. Because there's always going to be self-criticism. Don't get caught up in the criticism of it. Get caught up in the love of it. Now, that being said, you always want to be in growing mode. At no point should you feel like you finally reached the height of your growth. At no point should you ever feel that way. But you need to make the decision to make yourself a priority. So again, like the whole title and theme of this entire podcast is one decision away from a different life. But now you have to ask yourself, what are you resistant of with that decision? Because very often, you know you got the power in your hands, but you're afraid of using it. You're not sure if somebody's going to like it or not. Doesn't matter if they like it or not. This is your decision. This is you stepping into your power that you might have never had in your entire life. It's a whole different vibe now. And you know what? There's a lot of uncertainty in that. I need you to accept that the life of uncertainty is a life of joy. It depends on how you look at it. You know, and when I say uncertainty, I don't just mean financially and things like that. Uncertainty also opens up opportunity. If you're willing to accept uncertainty, you're willing to take a risk. You're willing to take a chance because you're okay with the uncertain outcome. So let that sink in for a minute. If you're okay with uncertainty, that means that you're great with opportunity. Okay, so think about that, because if not, you're trying to control it. If it doesn't have the blueprint to it, you're going to be like, I'm not safe there. I'm not doing that. And 19 different opportunities can go by the wayside. But if you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of open to receive whatever it is, and something comes out the blue and you're like, that's not something I would normally do. Let me check it out. Now that's like the best thing you could have ever done. So uncertainty doesn't have to be bad. It's how you see it. Accepting uncertainty is accepting opportunity. But at the end of the day, as you're sitting on the other end of this podcast and you're hearing this and you're feeling trapped or you're feeling ready to take the next step and you're feeling ready to do those things, you guys always know I take clients all over the world. Those links are always in my show notes. It's the description of the podcast. But if you're ready for that, then execute it. Make the decision to do it. That means make the decision to do the research you need to get out of whatever situation it is. That means make the decision, one decision at a time, to do that list in each area of your life. Career, family, health, spirituality. Do not forget your spirituality. I did not say religion. I said spirituality. Don't forget that. Always, always, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And while we have to live a human life and we have to address the things that we have in a human life, we must always nurture our spiritual side. Yin and yang has to be an equal measure, 50-50. And when you accept that, that's when you can work and play in equal measure. That's when you can balance your family and work. That's when you can balance family, work, and you time. Because you time's a priority. But, before you can make those strides and that progress, you first have to make the one decision. And always remember, you are one decision away from an entirely different life. Check it out.